I'm Natasha, this is Paul from narrowboat Ndoto Kamata. This is our first attempt at a YouTube video, so please bear with us, and I apologise now for any lumpiness in the editing. So as we didn't start recording video clips when we first got the boat, we're going to do bits and pieces as we're going along and then put it all together as our introductory video. So why is the boat called Ndoto Kamata? When we first bought her, she was called Dreamcatcher. We didn't realise there was 80 odd other Dreamcatchers on the network. We thought names were unique to boats, and Africa is very close to both of our hearts. We've been out there twice and done Kilimanjaro, succeeded in summiting second time because we didn't manage it first time, and I sponsor a little girl in an orphanage out there as well. So we spoke to a friend of ours out there and asked him what Dreamcatcher was in Swahili, and it is Ndoto Kamata, so hence our boat name. So we spent the summer of 2019 looking at lots of boats, both going to marinas to visit and looking at them online. We came up with a list of what we did and didn't want on our boat. So some of the don't wants, we didn't want portholes all the way down because they make the boat quite dark. We didn't want a boat over 57 foot long because we've been advised that was the best length to have so we can get in all of the locks, because some of the locks can be quite short around the country. And we did want lots of storage space because obviously going to be liverboards, storage would be crucial. So we visited Venetian Marina as one of the marinas, saw a boat there that we really liked, it was called Daisy. If you're now the proud owners, please give us a shout out. Absolutely fell in love with the boat, but she was over budget, and so we struck her off the list really. Carried on looking, went back to Venetian again another month later, and Daisy was still there. So I asked the salesman why he thought she hadn't sold, and he didn't really have an answer. So we went back on her again, and then we went on to this one that we have now. Got the spec sheets of both of them out, tried to look at what the differences were. The main thing was this one had storage space and Daisy wasn't. So Daisy was a good holiday boat but not a good liverboard. So with that we got off of this one, and Paul went and promptly offered on it and paid a deposit. That was at the end of August. It took until the beginning of November unfortunately before we could pick her up. I think that was a combination of the marina being so busy. We wanted to have her blacked before we left, new anode nodes put on, and obviously she had to have a safety certificate done, and there was a couple of small jobs on there but nothing really worth mentioning or to worry about. So the blacking is a covering on the bottom of the boat which protects the hull. It's a bitumen layer that is recommended is done every 2 to 3 years to help protect from corrosion. I'll turn the camera around and show you the bottom half of the boat and you'll better see the blacking. So you can see there where the blue paint line ends and the black starts, so that's the area that gets blacked, the bottom half of the hull. Can't see the anodes because they're in the water. There's 2 anodes on either side, and they help the corrosion stop happening due to the pitting that can happen when you're hooked up to electric on mainland. So the first weekend of November we were ready to collect the boat and start cruising. So there were several items we needed to make sure we had. Obviously we needed a windlass for the locks, but we made sure we had 2 so that if we dropped one we had another one we could use. We needed CRT keys, again we had one but got a second one so that we had a spare if needed. Life jackets, a life ring. We needed to fill the fuel tank. The fuel tank takes 100 litres of fuel, and you can estimate using about 1 litre an hour when cruising. The water tank had to be filled, that takes 200 litres of water, and it lasts us probably 7 to 10 days on average at the moment, but currently we're not using a washing machine on board, so once we do start using a washing machine on board that's obviously going to increase the amount we have to refill the water tank, but it should only be by another couple of days really. And we also needed chemicals for the toilet, so I'll put links below in case you're interested in all of the items that we needed to buy that we can get on Amazon. We also needed to make sure we had fuel for the fire, so we use wood and coal on our fire. The wood we collect on the canal as we go and on free cycle groups and Facebook pages, and then coal we get from the coal merchant. We buy 10 bags about every 3 or 4 weeks in the height of the winter at a cost of £80. But hopefully we'll have more wood to use for the next winter, so we use slightly less coal, although coal is good to keep the fire going overnight because obviously it burns slower than the wood does. We also needed to ensure we had adequate gas bottles, so we've got 2 13-kilogram bottles in the cover at the back, and obviously ropes for tying the boat up. There was ropes on the boat which we did use, but unfortunately, as it turns out, once we got to Sheffield and moored and had some windy conditions, the rope we had secure in the middle of the boat wasn't a proper boating rope, and it did snap in the windy conditions, and we ended up going across the marina and bumping into the boat next door to us. The other items we did purchase before we set off was mooring pins, because obviously when you're mooring on the canal side there aren't always loops, so you need to have your own mooring pins that you can lock into the ground. They're just like very large, oversized tent pegs. We obviously also needed fenders. There weren't any on the boat, so we got some in the chandlery before we left the marina. They originally attached to the boat on hooks that were attached to the body of the boat, but since we've painted the boat we have not replaced them, and Paul's made some new wooden hooks which hook over the top of the boat and can be moved along and put where we need them along the sides, so that's more practical than having permanent hooks on the boat. Before picking the boat up, we'd already purchased our Canal and River Trust licence. The variation in cost on that is dependent on the length of your boat, so ours costs about £1,000 a year for a 57-foot boat. And then whilst we were moving from Cheshire to South Yorkshire, we were looking into moorings, and we managed to discover there was a vacant mooring at Tinsley Marina, although we didn't pay the deposit or secure that until we were much closer, because we didn't want to be paying for a mooring when we weren't physically going to be there. We then had to look at the route we were going to do and work out how we were going to leapfrog with the cars. So we'd obviously have a vehicle at where the boat was, where we started each weekend, and then we needed a vehicle at the end point, and then obviously go back and collect the first vehicle at the end of the weekend, because at that time Paul was living in Ellesmere Port and I was in Sheffield, so we were meeting wherever the boat was. So it just all took a bit of planning, but as long as we knew where we were going and what we were doing, we used Google Maps to look on the satellite version so we could work out where was good places to park the cars either end of the movement for the weekends. So I hope you've enjoyed this first video. Like I said at the beginning, I apologise if it's lumpy in places. It is my first one, and I hope that as time goes on you will find value in the content. Please add anything you'd like to see covered in the comments below, and I will over a period of time do more detailed content of our trip from Cheshire to South Yorkshire, and then we'll obviously do content of trips as we go along. And I'll also do some videos about how we're building our financial independence, so that in March of next year we can give up our paid employment and become continuous cruisers, because we'll have enough income coming in from our various other revenue sources that we're currently developing. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to help to build the channel, so that we can get more helpful content out there to more users. See you next time. Bye.